Hey everybody, welcome to the round 4 player ratings. The first session of player ratings after a loss. A disappointing loss. 8 goals, 1462 to 13 goals, 1492. A 30-point loss. And it's the morning after. It's not great, but it's just part of the experience and part of the journey, and shortcomings will happen, inconsistencies will happen. We are not there yet. We've known this even when we won our 3 games in a row. So the time now comes for us to look at it and see how much or how quickly we can respond next week. These player ratings videos, if you are new here, welcome. But these player ratings videos are basically just a conversation starter. I'm going to make some suggestions. I rate every player out of 10 based on their own personal individual game and situation within the team, and they're not official, so don't take them too seriously. I'll start the conversation. You tell me in the comments below if you think that any of these need to be higher or lower, and then what number they should be at. And then I'll keep a tally for that, and we'll use these votes, if you call them, to decipher who wins the Blue or Broad Player of the Year. And it was a really interesting one because I thought probably those 4 half-back flankers that we have, I thought they were our best players, maybe with a couple more. George Hewitt and Jack Silvani was pretty good as well. So some of these scores were very interesting when I looked at them at the end. But nonetheless, we will talk about them as we go now and as the teams were named. Starting in the back line, it was Zach Williams, Lewis Young and Nick Newman. Zach Williams, I thought he was our best player on the day. I thought it was the best game that he's played for the club. And I know that we lost and we're disappointed, but I gave him a 10. I think that is as good a game as, like I said, I've seen him play, and as good a game as I think we can really ask from him. 36 possessions, 5 tackles, 5 marks, 800 metres gain. His ability over the last few weeks in particular to gain territory for us and give us field position has been nothing short of exceptional. And he's also a guy that's come under scrutiny, particularly last year. Obviously a big prize recruit, and we weren't getting the production that we would have expected from him, but I thought in round 4 he was sensational, and I just want to give him all the credit that he deserves. Obviously he made a couple of mistakes, we all did, and but overall I thought he was great, so I gave him a 10. Lewis Young is a bit different this week to last week. I thought this week he started to look a little bit more fumbly and just wasn't necessarily a one-touch player when the ball's on the ground, and just looked a little bit more lacking in polish and poise. I didn't think he got the job done on the day. I thought that was a loss. Just a couple of panic kicks and being outmarked in situations where we'd really need him to stand up, and obviously he's probably fighting for that spot with Oscar McDonald, so I just mindful of what we do there. But I gave him a 4, but nonetheless, he's still very, very early in his experience with us. So, it's a good learning curve for him. Nick Newman, as I said, I thought he was one of our better players. I gave him an 8. I thought his first quarter was really quiet, but from quarter time onwards, I thought he was really good. He really lifted in that second quarter, and he was great. When we got to half time, I'd made a note here that he had been really solid. He gave away the 50-metre penalty to the Gold Coast goal in the third quarter, which was really disappointing, just undisciplined and just lacked that little bit of focus, which I think was the theme of the entire team. And then he was outmarked in that third quarter by Josh Corbett for that goal with 2 minutes to go. And I think he could have been a bit higher had he not had a few of those slip-ups in the first quarter and whatnots. But overall, I thought he did play well. I know he had his moments, as they all did, but I think the overall game was more good than what it was bad. So I gave him an 8 for his game. Sardi, I tossed up between giving him a 10 as well. I thought he was really good. And I know I'm not trying to gloss over a loss and give too much credit in a loss, but I just thought he and Zach Williams in particular were just sensational. I mean, we lack the real run and carry that we've been seeing over the last few weeks, especially in the midfield with those overlapping runners with the extra handballs that we've been seeing. But Sardi was sensational. He ran all day. He had 529 metres gain over 23 possessions, went at 78%. I thought he was one of our better players. I'm going to put it as a 9, and I'll leave it as a 9 because I don't know if I can be giving out too many 10s in a loss like that. But I was pretty happy with the way he went about it. And that's definitely a game that we realised how important he is, given that we missed him last week. Wiedering, I did not think we got enough from Wiedering. I expect more from him now, given where he is in his career and, obviously a co-vice captain. I just did not see the Jacob Wiedering that I think we needed to see. I thought he had his moments where he was solid. Obviously, being at home watching is totally different to at the game, so I could be missing something here, but I just thought that was I think it was a bit of a loss on the day. I tossed up between giving him just a bare pass mark and a 4. I'm going to put it as a 5, as a bare pass mark, but I'll let you discuss that in the comments as to how you saw his game. I just expect more from him at this point in his career because he's shown it. Just seeing like that turnover kick, I think it was in the second with 1:20 to go, just unlike him, getting outmarked by Levi in that third, I think it was. It just wasn't the best Jacob Wiedering, and I'm sure he's going to be better for it next week and he'll respond. So that's Wieders. Doc, I thought he was great. I thought he was sensational for the most part. I thought he was probably halfway through that third quarter. I thought he was our best player on the ground, and I think he tailed off a little bit as the game wore on. Had that kick out in the full in the third quarter. There was a beautiful moment in the third. I think it was 11 minutes to go. Made the spoil inside our forward 50 and then hit up Matt Owies. The game was still, maybe it was dead, but I just sense it could have been alive there, and he just kept going. Thought he was sensational on the day. I gave him a 9. I have no qualms with how he played at all. The centre line, O'Brien, Cripps and Setterfield. Lockyer, it was okay. He was okay. He's found a way, I think, when he doesn't have his best game. He's lifted the standard of what his lesser games look like. He still worked really hard, took 8 marks, ran around the ground pretty well, had the 17 touches in the end, and it's good to see. It was a bit of a downish performance on what we've seen from him this season so far, but nonetheless, a down performance from him in years gone by looks something like 9 possessions and whatnot. So I think we're actually seeing development there from him in a game where he wasn't outstanding, but at the same time, I didn't think he was poor. I just, I think when we lost the midfield battle in the contest with the centre clearances and whatnot, I thought both of our wing players suffered from that because ultimately they rely on the ball being won at the stoppage and them holding their width and holding their position and then being able to get those uncontested possessions on the outside and drive us forward. So I thought O'Brien and Setterfield both suffered from that, and I found that a little bit hard to judge. But nonetheless, I gave Lockie a 6. I didn't think he was a fail on the day. I thought he did enough, and there was a really tough contest. I think it was later in the game where he split his nose, and I think that's a good little reminder that for those of you who want Lockie O'Brien to be a little bit more hard at the contest, I think you can't question him in that contest there. He had to go. He went, copped his hit, and paid the price for it. So gave him a 6. Cripper, I get it. Next man up. I know, I get it, but it just hurts. It just hurts. He was in, Brownlow form. He seemed to run off the ground, even though it was a hamstring, we know. So he seemed to run off, so that tells me that it hopefully isn't a serious hamstring, but it's just disappointing for him because he's in ripping shape, ripping condition. He's obviously a guy that it starts with him really this year. It's been that way. It starts with him. He gets us going. He's the engine room. He's the first to the contest with probably George Hewitt. It's hard to give him a rating. I thought he was excellent in the first quarter. Excellent. Probably our best player at quarter time. And it just was so sudden. I didn't see the incident where the hamstring happened. I didn't see it. It just all of a sudden you get to halfway through the second quarter, you see Jordan Boyd warming up and you're like, where's Cripper? Oh, shit. Like, he's out. So I can't give Cripps a rating. He was on the way to having an outstanding game. I don't really know how to do it. I'm just gonna leave it and not grade him. Setterfield, I mean, he had the 20 possessions. He worked tirelessly all day. He's another one with O'Brien that seemed to get a really harsh rap from the supporters. But I thought when Cripps went down, I thought Setterfield stood up. I really did. Had the 20. Like I said, his hands in traffic are clean. It's his attribute. It really is what I believe to be his best attribute. Obviously, we're playing him on the outside in this wing position, given the situation with all the inside mids and the contested balls that we have there. And so it has taken away from his strengths a little bit. He's had to learn something else to do. But I thought he was solid on the day. I thought he was solid, and it was a game where I really was fearful that he and O'Brien would really lose themselves a little bit when Cripps went down and we started losing the centre clearances. But I thought Setters worked tirelessly all day, and I'm pretty happy for him. He's just working at it. He's just chipping away at it, and he's just slowly getting better each week. And I'm pretty pleased considering, obviously a disappointing 2021. So I gave him a 7 for his game. I thought he was good for us. Half forward line: Jack Silvani, Charlie Curnow, and Jack Martin. Jack Silvani toyed with 8. I ended up giving him a 9. It was probably more just the effort. I mean, we got dominated in the ruck. I think Tom de Koning was taught a bit of a lesson, which is going to be good for Tom. And then Jack just battled, and he just lifted, especially in that second quarter. Just lifted and gave us a little extra juice and a little extra spirit, as he always does. Great contest in the third quarter, 10 minutes to go. Did super well. Hit the post in the third quarter, 16 to go. I was really unlucky. And I just thought you could not fault the way Jack Silvani went about it. And, he's another one in a loss in a game where we haven't played very well. He's starting to really stand out in these games and not just fall away and have those 9, 10, 11 possession games. Like, he's right up there in the thick of it, getting his 18 touches, 4 marks, 4 tackles. So pretty happy with the way he went about it. So I gave him a 9. Charlie got the early goal, looked sharp early on. He's still working through getting the consistency. He took 7 marks. He worked pretty hard throughout the day, kicked 1 goal too. I don't know what's going on with him just playing on the way he did. Is it a lack of focus at the task at hand? I almost sense that playing on as quickly as he did, as often as he did, it gave me a sense of him just wanting to take the shortcut and have the easy goal and make it as easy for himself as possible, instead of going back and composing himself. And I've got no issue with the snap, but when I get frustrated is when the players take the snap, don't give themselves enough time, they rush it, and they don't think their way through it. And I think Charlie suffered from that a little bit. Just didn't feel like we got enough from him. I did give him just the bare pass mark on the day, but I definitely want to see more from him moving forward, and just a little bit more composure, especially when the game was, really in the hands of the Gold Coast Suns for the majority of the day. We didn't need to be rushing our opportunities. We needed to be going back and just taking care of business. And, he'll learn from that. I think he'll definitely learn from that. So, yeah, I gave him a pass mark, but did toy with giving him a 4. Jack Martin, this was an interesting one. He's starting to fall into this category of player. I don't know if it's called whipping boy. I don't know what you call it. But I didn't think he was bad. I thought he got to plenty of contests. I thought when he was around the ball, he gave us enough intensity. Had 7 marks, was around the ground a fair bit. But, I mean, that type of game, just want more. I'm just left wanting more with Jack Martin. I don't want to see him in and out, flashy, patchy the way I am. I did notice, I don't know if you were at the ground, let me know, did he move behind the ball in the second half? I did notice him at times behind the ball. I wonder if we're trying something with him. I'm just not sure about, listen, it's round 4. Come on, we need to be ready to go. And I expect Jack Martin to be in that top third of our players on the list. That's where I rate him. I don't rate him in that middle bracket or second, third, or bottom third. He's in our best players. So when I see the impact that he had yesterday, I'm just left wanting more. And I'm not sure if I'm being unfair with expectations, but I just didn't think we got enough from Jack Martin as to what we needed to. So I gave him a 4 for his game. Might be a little harsh because I know he did work hard when he was around the ball. I don't know. Let's start it as a 4. You correct me in the comments. See how we go from there. Next up, it's Walsh, Mackay, and Owies. Walsh, he's interesting game. He's obviously not at his best. We've seen him play better than what he has, but I think this is actually a really interesting point in his career because he's obviously coming off surgery, looks a little bit proppy as well. He's not at his best. It's tough. It's challenging. But he still manages to get his 28, which is remarkable. And this is part of his long-term picture journey of, bridging that gap between your best and your worst and making sure that when you're not at your best, you're still able to contribute at a high level. Is he contributing at a high level? Yeah, he really is. We just know that he could be better. He obviously has spoken about it earlier this week as well, that he's just lacking that match intensity, which will come over the next few weeks. Obviously, Port Adelaide this week will be his 4th game back. Kind of hoping that this is the game that just gets him back into his best. But look, he was good. He was good without being his best. I still gave him an 8 for his game, but obviously plenty more to come. Still a 4th-year player. Still very young. We always need to remember that. So he is coming along nicely. Harry Mackay, I gave him a pass mark. Might be a little harsh there. He copped it in the nose and don't know if it was broken in the end, but it was nasty. And they are nasty when you cop them. So maybe that is a little harsh to give him a 5 because he did battle on, just didn't have the impact that we would have liked. Had 7 kicks, took 4 marks, 2 goals, 3. Another one who just rushed some of the shots that he took. He had some really good moments. The great roving goal in the second. He had kicked the 2 in the second. But then he had some moments where I think he should be better for it. One of them was in the 3rd quarter with 7 minutes to go. Pushed out way too easy for that mark. And then 4th quarter, can't believe I saw him do it. The flop. Don't do that. Please, Harry. Big, strong, big Harry. Don't do that. Don't make that a part of your game. I don't want to see that. For me, that shows a team or a player that's mentally beaten and he's looking for that easy one. And I just didn't like seeing that. I don't think it looks good for him. I don't want to be a team with players that do it. I'd rather us do it the hard way. And there's no need for him to flop. I think he played up the free kick a little bit that he actually did receive, but then that last one was just not. Tried to draw a 50-metre penalty. I think that's what he was trying to do, but I don't want that. Don't do any of that, Harry. You're a big, strong man. You're better than that. And, that's just my opinion. If he keeps on doing it, well, whatever. But I wouldn't imagine that someone of Michael Voss's calibre would want his players doing that. That's not grand final premiership behaviour, in my opinion. I thought Owies was good. I think he's finding a way to stay consistent. Had the 11 touches, the 5 marks, kicked the goal. Probably should have had 2. I think he did his job for sure. I gave him a 7. He just worked hard to beat the feet of the contest as much as he could. I just thought he was excellent. And he's really finding a way to just stay consistent and have this same type of game week in, week out. That, sort of 10 to 12 possession, 1 goal, 3-4 tackle type game. So he had the 5 tackles in this game, but yeah, I'm liking him. I'm liking his consistency and his professionalism and his application. The followers, De Koning, Chera, Hewitt. De Koning, not his best game. I was saying throughout the week as Pitto was ruled out, I was saying this was the biggest game of Tom's career. Just, you sort of have, I feel like you have games where you're tested and it's, all your work and the culmination of where you're at, and then you have a big test. And yesterday, round 4 was the test. Solo ruckman, obviously, with Jack Silvani chopping out when needed, but just didn't get the job done. I think it's going to be a great learning experience for him moving forward. I back him in to learn from it and be better for it. And we have to live through these games. That's part of the journey. That is part of the journey of Tom De Koning. That's part of the journey of our club. I gave him a 4 for his game, and I hope that he'll be better for it moving forward. Chera, probably another one. Left wanting more. Did tackle hard, and that's the beauty. I like to see that. It was not his game. He had the 15 touches. He's a guy that I'm looking at being one of our more prolific ball winners, particularly when Cripps goes down. I'm looking at a guy like Adam Chera and George Hewitt and the like to really step up. So we weren't able to get enough of the ball into his hands, or he wasn't able to win enough of the ball, or whatever the case was. Whether he was playing a little bit more of a negating role, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, I think Adam Chera is a much better player than what he showed in round 4. I'm a big lover of the 8 tackles though, so I did give him a pass mark, or I gave him a 6 in the end. But I do know that he's got a lot more to offer, and I think he's by his own standards, he'd have his standards a lot more higher than what they were shown in round 4. So hopefully we can get more from him next week. George Hewitt, mate, he's a star. He's a superstar of the competition. He makes me smile. When Cripps went down, if I had to pick one midfielder, because I thought our midfield was beaten comprehensively, but if I had to pick one midfielder that got the job done and lifted, it was George Hewitt. He had the 29 touches, took the 7 marks, 5 tackles, kicked a goal, 89%. I gave him a 9. I wanted to give him a 10. Like I thought he was really good. I thought he was really, really good. And if it wasn't Zach Williams that was our best player, George Hewitt's right up there. And he obviously is a bit of an underrated player throughout the league. But yeah, I'm loving George Hewitt. I'm loving what he brings to the table and his ability to stay in the contest when it's not going our way and lift in the contest when it's not going our way. So I gave him a 9. The bench, Kennedy, Fogarty, Plowman and Fisher. Kennedy, not a good game. He's had an outstanding couple of months, really. If you look all the way back to pre-season game 1 to round 3, he's been outstanding. He's obviously not had the impact that we would have liked. Having said that, 8 tackles. So just battled. Wasn't his day. It just wasn't his day. He ended up probably losing in terms of, did he perform his role on the day? He probably just lost on the day. It was a losing position for us. But I do want to give some kudos to the 8 tackles. So had the 15 touches. We obviously want him to be winning a bit more of the ball than that. It's not all about stats, but obviously in a game like yesterday, he was just beaten. Had the 15 touches and the 8 tackles. He battled. It wasn't his day. I gave him just a bare pass mark. I just have a lot of respect when you can have 6 or 7 plus tackles in a game. It just means that you're not completely giving up and you are trying. It's just not your day. So that's how I saw it. Lockie Fogarty, I loved his game. I loved the way he went about it. He had the 10 touches, 3 tackles, 4 marks, put the pressure on. I have no issue with the way he went on about it. I don't expect a lot from him. I expect him to be a bit more of a role player. He tackled hard, he marked hard when he needed to, had a couple of bad turnovers, no doubt about that, but just the main theme of Lockie Fogarty's day for me was just the hard work that he put in all day, and maybe the stats are a little bit deceiving. I just thought he was a lot better than what they look right now, so I gave him a 7 for his game. Plowman didn't take too many notes because he's a very interesting cat, Plowman, as a player to watch, because he doesn't stand out, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because for the most part, he's got a negating role. Some people think he played on Rankine. I saw him at times on Rosas and a couple of other smalls. I think it was a bit more of a rotation policy than anything else. What I find with Plowman is that he's a solid defender without being an outstanding defender. And then when the ball's in hand, when just not getting anything other than the basics, which is okay. But I just found myself asking, seeing Liam Stocker in the reserves play the way he did, like he can defend at a relatively good level, but what he can provide for us with ball in hand in the back half is where I start thinking, all right, maybe this is the evolution of the side where Plowman isn't playing every week. He's maybe just playing when we need him and when we've got injuries. And I think that's a good space to be in, because for the last 5 to 6 years, he's been a staple in our 22. I just feel like we can get more from that position with Plowman. I feel like it's starting to evolve. It's got nothing to do with being against Plowman personally, but I just am left wondering. It's just a big question mark. It's a fascinating one, and obviously he's coming off last week, and he would know that the fan base is, a section of the fan base, I should say, is giving him a bit of a hard time. It's tough because you want your players to be confident. So I want to get behind him, but at the same time, I just didn't feel like he had a massive impact on the contest. He had a few good moments, a few good contests, and then a couple that weren't so good. I gave him a 4 for his game. That's how I saw it. Fisher, I gave him a 7 for his game. I don't know where it's just hate at this point. I don't know where the negativity comes from. What do you want from him? He's given us the 18 touches, gone at 77%. The goal was a consolation goal, there's no doubt about that. But he's a half-forward flank player who's pushing up into the midfield, giving us a bit of relief around stoppages, getting in the thick of it. I thought it was far from his worst game. Took 6 marks, provided an option, and that's kind of generally the game that I kind of expect from Zach Fisher, given this position that he's playing in. Would love him to have a bit more impact moving forward, but we just didn't get that going. We didn't get that surging handball game forward going. It didn't happen. Didn't happen all game. So that's where I'd like to see Fisher and even Fogarty at times, and obviously Kennedy and Chera just lift and be a part of that. So the other one was Jordan Boyd. And can I just say, in 3 quarters, I thought he was great. I thought he was great. I gave him a 7 for his game, knowing where he's at in his journey, and obviously not in our best 22 at this stage, but just pushing for selection week to week. The coaches obviously love him. He's obviously doing something right. I thought he was good. I liked what I saw from Jordan Boyd in the 3 quarters that he played. I thought it wasn't a situation when he first came on, I thought, oh, we're struggling, we're getting beaten, he's a player that might just go into his shell. Nah, I thought he didn't go into his shell, and I think he needs to be credited for that. So gave him a 7. Those are the player ratings. That's the end of the therapy for round 4. We can fucking move on from that and move straight into round 5. Obviously not great, but we've got a lot to work on, and we know this. Even when we were winning, there was a lot to work on. So this time we just didn't get away with it and take the win. Big week this week. Got to respond against Port, so we'll see how that goes. Let me know what you think about these ratings and these votes in the comments. If you have a different opinion, let me know. And let me know what the score should be, or what you would put instead of what I would put. And we'll have a little bit of a discussion, and then we can move on and look ahead to round 5. Enjoy, and go the Mighty Blues.